Good evening. I'll now call the City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for May 2018 to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abity?
Here.
Altoff?
Here.
Carpenter?
Here.
Duncan?
Here.
Mattson?
Here.
And Mayor Robinson.
Here. All please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our May Day City Council meeting. At this time, the chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Bill, second by John. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Moves us on to public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments must be pertinent to city business and adhere to data privacy rules. No employees' names may be used and personal attacks will not be tolerated. Anybody wishing to address the council under public input? Okay.
Good evening, and all of Cannon Falls, too. My name is Kyle Paulson. I am from the Chamber office here in the Cannon Falls area. I just want to invite everyone to our upcoming Chamber Fun Fest. It is on Thursday, May 10th. Remember, May 10th. Right now, we have 33 vendors, so it's a really good turnout. And we are looking for more food vendors. So if anyone knows of any food vendors that would like to be at the Fun Fest, please have them contact the Chamber office. We also have our flower baskets coming very shortly. They started blooming in April, and we should be putting them up around Mother's Day. We are collecting memorials in honorariums and also just donations. And so if you'd like to do that, you could mail that to the Chamber office or come down and visit. That would be great. Any other questions?
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Do I need to sign in too?
Yes, please.
Ross Nelson from Welch Mill Canoeing and Tubing. Address 14818 264th Street Path, Welch, Minnesota 55089. And I appreciate you letting me see you in this time of year, because usually I'm here in April, and I was only skiing a couple weeks ago, so I'm not really prepared for my business yet. Haven't been down the river yet, but we are going to open up probably this weekend or the following weekend. Still like to use, my wife and I would still like to use Riverside Park as our access. If we can do that, that'd be great. Hopefully they're getting our insurance information. You get that every year? It gets sent over here. I'll just double check. Okay, but we are insured and we take care of that. And if there is a problem, we would like you to call us if there's something we need to take care of. My wife and I, we can be found. If I'm not around, my wife is there, and she knows how to find me more than she should. But if there's anything that we need to take care of, just please let us know. Don't hesitate to give us a call, because we'll.
Do we need to do a motion on that? Okay. We'll move that on council business. Okay. Welch Canoeing always comes every year and asks us to use that spot, and I haven't heard any complaints or concerns about that spot for those folks.
I move to continue authorizing them to use the access point.
Motion by Cedar, second by Morris. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Yes, yeah, just make sure you get all the insurance stuff to Linnell.
I'll double check with you also. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Anyone else wishing to address us under public input? If not, we'll move on to item 6 this evening, which is Resolution 2345, certifying unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes, and we will be having a public Hearing for that. Linnell?
Thank you, Mayor. The city quarterly has a public hearing for unpaid utility charges, and those that were impacted by this did receive notification. And so this is the opportunity for them to come forward and speak regarding their unpaid utility charges and the possible assessment.
Looks like it's pretty much stayed the same.
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing. All right, at this time, we will open the public hearing for Resolution 2345, certified unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes. Is there anyone wishing to address the council under Resolution 2345, certified unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes?
It may sound ridiculous, but is there anybody on the council that hasn't paid their utilities? And they're on this statement?
I don't know.
Don't know.
It has
Good.
been known to happen, hasn't it?
Yes, just checking. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the council under Resolution 2345, certifying unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes? Is there anyone wishing to address the council under Resolution 2345, certified unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes? Seeing as there is no one, we will close the public hearing, and the chair will take a motion to approve Resolution 2345.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by John, a second by Ken. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to item 7 this evening, which is the 2017 audit presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, for having me. You should have in your packets the 2 reports. One's our management letter and the other is the financial statements themselves. That includes our opinion. I will primarily go through the management letter. If there's any specific questions that we want to open up the report for, we certainly can do that. But for the most part, I'll just go through the management letter, which covers everything what's in the financial statements, just at a higher level, so at a summary level. So we'll get started with going through that management letter. And the first page of that management letter, and it's the one with the clear cover down in the front. First page outlines our responsibility in performing the audit, and that is to give an opinion on your financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As part of arriving at that opinion, we'll look at your internal controls, and if there's anything in internal controls as far as processing transactions, we see anything in there that raises to a higher level of risk of fraud or misstatement, that we'll report those in the report management letter here. We are issuing an unmodified or a clean opinion on your financial statements, so it's an opinion you're looking for when you have the financial statements prepared. So clean opinion on those. The second page, or the third page of the management letter, preparation of the financial statements. This is the one finding that we have in the report. Again, this has been reported in the past. It's about preparing the financial statements. The preparation of the financial statements is the responsibility of management. So, however, we do prepare the financial statements as part of our audit process. This is fairly common with cities of your size that we prepare these financial statements. So, we prepare the financial statements to get for probably 85% of the clients we do, and this finding is reported in probably 95% of those clients. So this isn't unusual, but again, this is just outline our responsibility and your responsibility. The city's responsibility is to prepare these financial statements. We believe everything that's in the financial statements is accurately reported, again, in all material respects. But we can't put anything in here that we weren't told or that was withheld from us. Management has signed something that says they've given us everything we've asked for, so we don't suspect anything's been withheld, but again, it's just there to outline that responsibility. Page 4 and 5 are some general communication that we're required to give to you. Page 6, we get into the financial results. So page 6 here, we have the fund balance at year end compared to your following year's budget. And here we recommend anything between that 35 to 50% is a minimum balance in these funds. because you receive majority of your revenue through tax settlements, which are received through your tax levy and special assessments, which are received about halfway through the year and then at year end. So you want to have enough reserves at year end to get you through that next tax settlement amount or tax receipt. So you have 69% at the end of 2017 compared to your previous years. You've been hovering around that 60, 75%, anywhere in there. So you've definitely been above that minimum target of 50% year after year. So you're watching your budget and sticking to kind of what you're budgeting for your expenditures and your revenues. Page 7, you can see the actual results with your general fund. Looking at your final budgeted numbers compared to your actual numbers, you can see your revenues came in about $330,000 over what you had budgeted. Expenditures were about what you were budgeting, with only $11,000 variance there on a $3 million budget. Overall, had a net change in fund balance of an increase $266,000. Some of those variances, or the biggest variance in your general fund revenues, were your building permits. That was, you budgeted $25,000 or $26,000 in that category, and you're $109,000 above that budget. So a lot of activity this year, more than I think you're budgeting conservative in this category, just because some of the past years haven't been so favorable. But this year seems to be much more favorable for most cities that we've been working with. So building is it's on the rise, which is good for everybody. Page 8. Here we look at your general, again, this is just looking at your general fund. So the general fund sources of revenue that's supporting your general operations over the last 3 years. I always like to look at a couple things on these charts. Overall increase of your revenues over the last 3 years, and I calculated that to be 9%. As well as where those, if there's any been variances from where your revenue sources are coming from. So 2017, about 59.6% of your revenue comes from property taxes. So again, going back to that first chart where we looked at fund balance reserves, majority of your revenue here, or almost 60% of it's coming from tax revenues. Compared to 2015, 59.7% was coming from taxes. So fairly consistent year after year on where your revenue sources are coming from in your general fund to support your operations. Page 9, same type of chart for your expenditures. So 15 through 17 on the functions, general government, public safety, public works. 35% of your expenses in the general fund is being paid out for public safety. So police, fire, those types of services. Next highest one is general government services. So your mayor, council, just office type staff, those types of things. Then with the last two columns here, we have a comparison to your peer group. So other cities of similar size, the 25, the 100 to 10,000 population cities, comparing what you're spending per capita compared to what they're spending per capita. So if you're just looking at total current operating expenditures, you're spending about $730 per resident, where your peer group's spending $560 per resident. So about 30% higher in this category. But later on, we can kind of explain that on some of the ratios at the end, we have those ratios at the end, we can see where your taxes per capita are, which you are lower in taxes per capita. So you're getting revenues from other sources other than just your taxes. So the residents aren't seeing the brunt of these charges. Page 10, special revenue funds and your capital project funds. You have 3 special revenue funds, and these are funds that have revenue sources that are either committed or restricted by an outside party. We have the library fund, the cable public television fund, and the fire department operations fund. The library fund finished fund balance at $141,000 compared to $87,000 a year before, so about a $54,000 increase in fund balance. Reason for that increase, budgeted personnel expenditures were about $50,000 less than what you had budgeted, so they came in about $50,000 less. Public television had an increase of $20,000 in fund balance. You did have unbudgeted franchise fees totaling $60,000 that came in this fund that supported that increase. And then fire department operations had about a $20,000 decrease in fund balance this year, related to you had some purchased uniforms last year out of this fund. At the bottom of that, capital project fund. So these are all the funds you have that you're setting money aside to support your capital purchases. So either equipment purchases in each of the departments or any projects, street projects you have outstanding or ongoing. You can see what I recommend here is that you're taking a look at each one of these funds. If these projects are done, that you're closing these funds, either with transfers into the fund to support any deficits in funding, or if you have any extra funds that you're transferring those out into other projects and getting those cleaned up. You do have the last three funds there, the Alexander Court Limestone Road Repair Project and 2008 Street Project. All have deficits. You have incurred expenses with those, with what the funding sources will be coming in 2018. So, then our debt service funds, kind of explain those on page 11, and then the funds you have, the 5 funds you have outstanding. These are outstanding bonds you have related to street projects. You can see that overall these type of funds, or these bonds, are about $5.3 million outstanding to support these general non-water sewer related projects. And then we have the chart below where you're spending about $700,000 over the next 3 years in debt service requirements for these, and then drops down to about $600,000 in 2021 through 2023, and then all the way down to about $300,000 in 2024 to 27. So definitely have some higher debt service requirements in these funds over the next 3 years, then it kind of drops off. But again, this doesn't factor in any new bonds that will be issued over the next 10 years. Then the last few pages, we got our enterprise funds, your water, sewer, storm funds, and as well as your deputy registrar and funds. So the water fund, this is all on a cash basis, so this isn't looking at any accruals, so this is just cash coming in the door and cash being paid out. The top chart, we take a look at, are you receiving enough cash receipts to support your cash outflows with operating expenses as well as your debt service requirements? So definitely want to see that blue bar on the left higher than the gray and the green on the right. In 2017 was the first year of the 4 years presented that you're able to meet that. So I think a lot of this goes to the rate studies that have been done and adjusting those rates over the last few years. Then we have the cash balances cash balances for the last 4 years. You can see those have stayed around that $1.2 million mark, stayed pretty steady there. Did have an increase this past year. The last column there, or the last chart there at the bottom, shows you have about $2.9 million of bonds outstanding. So you definitely want to keep those receipts above those disbursements, as well as monitoring that cash balance. Disposal fund, with this one, it has not met, you haven't met that requirement yet with the operating receipts over the disbursements. You can see that's somewhat seen down below in the 2017 cash balance. It has decreased from 774 down to 576. And you do have $5 million outstanding here. So definitely want to concentrate on the rates with this fund. Make sure you're getting above those operating receipts, above those disbursements, because you really want to monitor and have enough cash to support that bond. So make sure, and I know you're reviewing those rate studies on an annual basis, and make sure you're following that. Question?
What is the disposal fund?
Sewer,
Okay,
the sewer fund, yep.
okay, that's kind of was my guess, but
Yep.
Well, we authorized 2% increase for the next 2 years after this. I had a problem with that, but we should keep that up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you can see how your cash balance decreased from 16 to 17. You do have $5 million outstanding with 576,000. We have that red line there. That red line is what we recommend as the minimum target. So, which is we recommend 100% of the following year's debt service requirements you have on reserve, plus 6 months of operating expenses on reserve. So definitely, I would recommend looking at your rates. I mean, obviously, there's different things. You can look at your expenses or your rates and see which one of those you can look at. But right now, you're spending more than you're taking in as far as cash. Ambulance fund. You don't have any debt outstanding in the ambulance fund. So, but with your receipts compared to your disbursements on the chart, you are meeting those recommendations on that. As you can see, and then on your cash balances down below, those are going to fluctuate with different capital purchases you have. So you had a capital purchase 2016, 17, was able to bring that cash back up to above that minimum target line. Stormwater fund. The bars look higher here, however, the numbers are a lot smaller. So you're receiving about $140,000 of revenue in this fund spending. It's going to fluctuate from year to year depending on different projects or lines you're going to repair. But you have been able to increase this cash up to about $400,000. But if you're going to use this money for any type of project, this money goes pretty fast too with these stormwater funds. So even though that target line is well below the what your actual cash balance is, because that target line is based on operating expenses, so, and your debt. But you don't have a ton of debt in this fund that you're supporting with it. So most of that's going to be for repairs or those types of things, which become expensive in the stormwater fund. Deputy Registrar Fund. So this fund is definitely want to take a look at around your budget process. You have a $20,000 deficit cash balance in this fund. You can see from 2014 you had just over $4,000 of cash in the fund, and at the end of 17 you have a $20,000 deficit. A lot of this relates to personnel costs, and with the changeover with the state system this past year, I know we're seeing a lot of personnel costs much higher than they have been in this fund in these funds in the last number of years. But again, take a look at that as when you go through your budget process and see if anything needs to be adjusted there.
I saw on the next report that lost about $91,000 last year
On the which report?
on the register funds at the DMV, or what do you call it?
Oh. Here or
Here.
at there? Lost 91,000? What do you mean, you're budgeting a 91,000 loss or what?
$91,000 loss.
Oh, on the overall cash?
Yes.
Or on the fund itself? That could be, but not all that's related to cash.
Okay.
Yep. So that's gonna be some other things within that fund. So let me take a look. Oh, it's in the back. I just want to verify that.
Did I see that the state's making funds available for
On
some?
page 53 of the next report.
Okay, of the audit report. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
The deputy register had an $18,000 loss this year. The net position, that's what you're looking at. So the net position is $91,000,
Yes.
yeah, or negative, a deficit $91,000, yep. Yep. Some of that has to do with the pension liability too. So you have a $60,000 pension liability related to the unfunded pension at the state. That's included in that. So that's something out of the ordinary. That's something you'll never have to fund, but it's required to be in your statement. So that's a $60,000 liability there that is never going to have to be funded by you.
It was not a true operating loss, so there is a bit of a difference in that.
Yep. But definitely something you want to take a look at. Because you have deficit cash in there. The recycling fund is doing well. Definitely meeting receipts with disbursements over the disbursements there. Steadily seeing that cash balance go up. So just kind of monitor that to see how high you want that to be. And on page 19, here's where we have the ratios, comparing these financial ratios to other cities of similar size. Your debt to asset number, you're at 37% compared to your peers at 34%. So it's pretty close there, but that's just taking a look at total total assets that you have compared to what debt you have borrowed against those assets. So the lower the percentage here, the better. You can see in 2014 you're at 39%, 2017 you're at 37%. So it stayed pretty consistent over the 4-year period. Debt service coverage ratio, here we're looking at anything over 100%. So are your enterprise funds generating enough cash to support your debt, which they are, compared to your peers at 105, so very close there. Debt per capita, you're at about $3,400 per capita and your resident or your peer group's at just over $2,000 per. So higher in this debt per capita number than your peers. But then if we take a look at the next line there, the debt taxes per capita, you're at $495 compared to your peers at $510. So you're under your peers, but fairly close to your peers. So you're paying back your bonds with either special assessments or other user charges for these bonds. So you're not just taxing your residents for these bonds. Current expenditures per capita, you're spending $912 compared to your peers at $725. Similar to what we saw in the general fund. Capital expenditures is going to fluctuate depending on the different projects you have going on from year to year. 2016, you were spending $317. 2017, you're spending $119. So compared to your peers, they're right around that $340 per resident. The last two percentages there. Take a look at just how, on an accounting life basis, how old your assets are. So if you put a street, if you reconstruct a street, put it on the assets, start depreciating it, and we put it on the books for 10 or 20 years, if this percentage was at 50%, it'd mean it's 10 years into its life. So this just taking a look at the first one, the governmental assets, those would be primarily your streets and buildings. And the second one is your primarily your water, sewer, stormwater lines. So about 60%. So very comparable both with your peers in those categories. So the rest of the report is just some standard language, some future accounting changes that we'll implement as these become due and required to be put in your financials. But we just have them in there for some general reading. So any questions on any other questions? And there's the rest of the report.
Anybody got any questions on this? I know you guys do a lot of work putting this together. Earlier in the year, I stopped by. We chatted, and you guys were hard at work trying to get everything done. And we appreciate the job that you guys do, and when you guys do put this together. So appreciate it.
I would say the same things for city staff. Appreciate all the hard work they do. They do a lot of work getting ready for us to come. I know that, so definitely appreciate that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, the chair will take a motion to approve the 2017 city audit as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ken, second by Cedar. Any further discussion?
Do we, and forgive me, but I don't remember, maybe I block it out, but when we do our budgeting process later in the year, do we always have this handy? Because we do, right? Part of our, okay, good.
You got a copy right there?
Well, I know, but am I going to have that with me in November?
Hard to remember from back then.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. All right, that moves us on to the council consent agenda. Items on this area of the agenda may be adopted or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. For the folks at home, we'll read the consent agenda. Item A is the just and correct claims for the accounting period ending April 26, 2018. Item B are the meeting minutes for the April 17, 2018 City Council meeting. Item C, Resolution 2346, accepting donation of $10 from James Ruber to the library. Item D, Resolution 2347, declaring a community festival. Item E, approve Ken Wall's resignation from the fire department. Item F, approve Todd Anderson retirement from the fire department. Item G, approve a website contract with Municode Web. And item H, approve peddlers/solicitor's license for Christopher Abbott. Are there any items anybody wishes to bring down? If not, Chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ken, second by Bill. Any further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That moves us on to council business this evening. The first one is a request to waive fees. Mr. O'Gorman?
Hi, I'm trying to develop about 4.5 lots right across the tracks here, oldest part of town. I'm required to pay $500. This Samantha's rough to bargain with. $500 for a preliminary plat. I got to pay $500 for a final plat, and then I got to put $3,000 in escrow. Now I think it'd be the same if I was doing like 5 city blocks. And really, it's all platted property. It's just we're changing the configuration of the lots within one of the oldest parts of town. And Maroney claims I'm going to get some of this, most of this $3,000 back possibly. I don't know, it seems real excessive to me. Then I found out that the winery didn't have to pay anything. And to make matters worse, they didn't show up the first time, so now staff had to do it all over again for free. But I gotta pay. And I gotta escrow $3,000.
Well, Linnell, the escrow is a normal thing we do, right, for developments?
Yeah, it's
And-
on a schedule.
And generally speaking, usually they get a large portion of their escrow back unless something goofy happens.
Yeah, the purpose of the escrow is to cover city costs for outside entities, for example, publication requirements, if there's a survey that needs to be done, recording fees, things like that. And Sam, you can maybe fill it in if I'm missing anything, but, you know, it's to cover those types of fees. Sometimes there are legal fees depending on the situation, and so the escrow is a set amount that's charged to cover those costs. Anything that's not used is returned to the applicant.
Right, it's a deposit from which
It's a
things are
deposit.
paid, hence the term escrow.
Yes.
It's not a fee. Are there $500 and $500 of separate fees apart from the $3,000 in escrow? Yes. Okay, so those are fees versus
And
escrow. Okay.
I've paid a surveyor, I've paid the attorney, I've paid the engineer. They send me a bill and I pay them.
Right, you and I have had this discussion. The escrows are charged to everyone because maybe not everyone would pay as promptly as some. So it is a charge, or an escrow that's collected with the application process, and that way everyone is treated the same.
But everyone's not treated the same
Granted.
because some people aren't being charged and some people aren't paying.
Are we talking about the fees or are we talking about the escrow? Are we talking about both?
The fees and the escrow.
Okay, and I want to be clear about this. The escrow is one thing and fees are another. Fees are never going to come back to you. Okay.
Understand
So
that.
to be clear, is it your contention that the winery is not being asked to pay any of the fees and they're not being asked to place any funds in escrow?
Correct, that's the way I understand it. It's
Is
the
this,
way
can
I-
anyone confirm or deny this?
That is true.
Okay. And that was an agreement made between the winery and,
The city council.
oh, did we approve that in our package of things?
That request was on the term sheet that was
Okay.
presented at the December city council meeting.
Oh, okay, right. Among the colored dots or whatever.
Did it get
Okay.
passed, did it get passed on the consent agenda?
No, sir, it did not. It was discussed
Just
at
ask.
length. Okay.
Hey, I'm still smiling. It's unusual.
I mean, this is up to the council. I mean, everybody should be treated fairly on this. I know that with the winery project, I mean, they did ask for it, and the council did approve it. I mean, the council does have the authority to waive the escrow or do whatever else. So, I mean, it's up to the council how they want to handle it. I mean, this evening. I mean, everybody should basically be treated the same.
Well, and I think there's more to this. I think that if I had 5 city blocks, I'd be paying the same $500 to
Correct.
plat and replat and final plat and escrow. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Well, the
those
plat,
fees are.
it's a county thing. Not necessarily.
I don't know, I'm paying my survey. He's the guy that did all this.
And he files it with the county.
And charges me, and I've paid the bill in full.
The fees that the city charges is to try to recoup staff time for the various things that are involved with the applications, the pre-plating, the final plating, whatever else is involved. So the purpose of those fees is to cover the costs so that it helps recoup, and it's a revenue source as well. And
Right, we just
It's
heard
all
from the
part-
auditor about the revenue source that
And it goes
these
hand in
are,
hand.
right?
Yeah.
That reduces the tax burden on our citizens. right? It's how we,
Okay.
it's how we manage to service our debt and provide more per capita services for each and every resident in Cannon Falls without charging them more in taxes, is through that revenue stream, right?
And I firmly believe in that concept.
Yeah. What type of development are you looking to do over there, babe?
Some, like a twin home and 3 or 4 single family.
I mean, that can be recouped through property taxes. I mean,
I've been paying property taxes over there for over 15 years now.
I understand that too. I mean, I'm just saying that, you
And
know,
the city
even
doesn't
the new
borrow.
taxes on that would cover that 3,000 with no issue, but I mean, that's up to.
Well, but wait, okay, so are we talking about waiving the things that would be pulled from the escrow or waiving the requirement to prepay an escrow? Do you see what I'm saying?
I'm just asking to be treated the same way as.
As the winery? As a
Yes.
business with employers? How many employees are we going to have? How many full-time equivalents are you going to
Well,
have?
I have a few full-time employees, but.
This development is going to employ, what is it,
I'm gonna-
5
I'm gonna-
new full-time equivalents?
I'm just gonna employ some construction guys and
Okay.
that's what I
So,
do.
I mean, it's a fallacy to say that everyone is always treated the same in these things. That's not true. MnDOT could ask, well, I wouldn't say MnDOT, I'm just looking at you, and so it came to me. But an entity, a business, an individual, they are always treated differently, within reason, right? Like, we have reasonable basis for things. So, okay.
I guess my question is, other than the winery getting a deal, and I was not on the council at that point, have we in the past given a pass on fees or escrows accounts to others?
Off the top of my head, I would say no. That's not a typical practice for the city to waive fees. I know that the winery was given that opportunity through their term sheet and something that was negotiated through that process. But typically, we do not. We've had other developers in the past that have paid the fees and paid the escrows. If
And
there's
not
something,
complained?
maybe there were a few complaints, but
I think everybody complains on that. but,
yeah, so.
What I'm getting at is, I don't want to start a slippery slope if we elect to give Babe his thing tonight. Then, 6 months down the road, does Joe Smith come in and say, gee, I'd like to have mine?
Right.
We start doing this and we really can't do that. And the fees, well, you got to pay the fees. Everybody's got to pay the fees when you do
Oh,
it.
not everybody.
Well, with the one exception.
Okay.
But, and I believe you will get a significant portion of your escrow back.
Right.
Not all
I
of it.
hope so.
That's gonna be used to pay actual costs, and whatever isn't used to pay actual costs will go back to you. So we're really talking about the only out-of-pocket that you never have any chance to reap any benefit from, you personally and your development personally, is the $1,000. So you talk in your letter about how that's going to ruin the affordability of these lots. Is
I
$1,000?
say the
You
word ruin?
suggest if I'm to keep these lots affordable, then these fees are excessive. So is $1,000 going to change these lots from affordable to unaffordable?
Okay.
That's a question.
Yeah, it's significant.
Okay.
I mean, it's excessive, I think, but what do I know? Got to remember, if I had 3 city blocks and 300 lots maybe, they're only going to have $3,000. That's what I'm saying. That's what makes it excessive. It's hard to imagine, but if I'm going to do the whole tract of land across from the high school, he's going to pay $3,000, $1,000 to replat it. Same money for 300 lots instead of 4 or 5.
What was the process of establishing our fee schedule? It predates many, if not all of us, I imagine.
I think 2006, a lot of things happened in 2006 around here. Changed a lot of things, didn't it?
That's probably true, yes.
Yes.
Typically, when the fees are established, I'm trying to remember these specifically, it used to be where we hired someone to do their planning and zoning for us, and those costs got very excessive. And then at some point, they did away with that. I don't know if I think that was after 2006. I am not sure. time has a way of slipping by. So then we decided to do those in-house and try to make those more affordable, because we were charging much more than that in escrows and paying out more than that. And so the $500 was thought to be an average cost for many developments. And so rather than charging for each different development in different amounts, it was an average of the cost of estimated staff time, estimated in-house costs, copies, whatever, things like that, that we don't charge additional fees.
Right, which would be a
So-
convenience for developers as well, because they can look at that fee schedule and budget appropriately without having to embark on, for example, a hearing every single time. You know what I mean? Every new project needs to come to council and talk about what fee is appropriate for me and my development. And one would not know, and one would not be able to secure the financing that one might need in advance to begin to evaluate their project. So I can see why we elected a flat rate.
Do you, well, your land surveyor and all that, I mean, it's down at the county right now, right? I mean, the plat? Or isn't it?
Yeah, he drew it all up, sent me a bill, I paid
The
it.
plat itself is still here at Cannon Falls. It has to go through Planning Commission first and then come to City Council for preliminary approval. Then it goes back to the Planning Commission and City Council for final approval. So that's the two $500 preliminary, $500 for preliminary, $500 for final platting. It only gets recorded at the county once the final plat is approved. So we're looking into July, August for that with this project.
And to answer you, Morris, the surveyor, redesigned all the lots. The lots were there, they're platted, it's the oldest plat in town. We just reconfigured the lots,
Okay.
okay?
No, that's
Which
fine.
Dave Rapp did, and I paid him, and he sent it to Maroney, and here it sits, so. Anyway, thanks for your time.
Well,
It's up to you.
it's not up to me, it's up to you guys.
Well, you
I mean-
got most of the 3,000 back, excuse me.
I'm okay with it just like it is, not a problem.
And he's paid the 500, so basically there won't be much taken off, the 3,000, right?
Those are separate, I think. Go ahead.
So the base fee, correct, is the $500 that you would have to pay, and then $500 again for the final plat. So
And the escrow is separate, and
Yep.
the fees that are drawn from the escrow don't have anything to do with the money that's from the fees, right? So I will say that it is a little bit fuzzy, because we say that the fee covers staff time, and yet it sounds like some of the escrow funds also cover some elements of staff time?
the
No, not at
escrow
all.
does not cover staff time. The escrow is for
Outside vendors.
if we have to pay somebody for something related to this process.
It's pre-funding expenses that the city would otherwise incur out of pocket and seek reimbursement for. So it's just saying, let me establish a deposit. Okay, that makes sense.
Anybody got anything? I mean, it's up to the council, what you guys want to do.
I will make a motion that we do not waive any fees or the escrow.
Okay, I have a motion by Bill that does not waive any fees or escrow. Is there a second?
Second.
And I have a second by Cedar. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 4-1. That moves us on to the item B this evening, assignment of the recycling contract.
Sorry. The city received information from our current recycling contract owner, which is Dale Gibson, who is here this evening, that he has sold his business to Waste Management, and there's a representative from Waste Management here this evening as well. And Dale is here to answer any questions or discuss this with you.
Hi, Dale.
Good. Mayor and council, I'm Dale Gibson with Gibson Sanitation, and I have decided it was time to retire. City has been great to us. Thanks to all you for supporting and all you folks at home. It was a hard decision to make. It was a very hard decision to make. Some of it that drove it was time to repower equipment. Quite a long commitment to get it paid off. As we all know, help wanted is everywhere. CDL drivers are extremely difficult. And our healthcare insurance for the staff was crazy. Couldn't even pencil it. So coming on 62 and thought maybe I'd reach out and see if somebody else could pick up where we left off. So I went through a process and went through a few different carriers and ended up talking with Waste Management. They had the contract here before I had gotten it years ago. I believe I'm 10 plus years into it. Little history on that, probably it was about 7 years ago when Mr. Reeves was here. Him and I worked out a deal where we could extend the contract. We locked the price down at the 4th year in the first 5-year contract. And then it came up for renewal here this last year, or last December, the first of the year. And I suggested just keep holding with that price and go. So the contract right now currently is for a 5-year term, and the rate on it is very attractive. I'm starting to lose touch already with what's going on with the commodity prices and that type of stuff. Jay is here from Waste Management. He's a little clearer on that stuff. That's a very volatile market. I guess with that being said, that's about all I have.
Well, Dale, I have to say, I was on the council back in 07, 08 era when we discussed who we were going to do our recycling with, and the council at that time really wanted to keep our business local, and you came in with a good price, and that made it pretty easy for us to go with you, and you guys have done a great job over the years. I know Waste Management is also an excellent company, and if I understand what I read in the Beacon, all the prices, not just for the recycling, but also garbage is going to remain the same?
Yes. Everything they will pick up where we've left off. So they're honoring any of our current agreements and past. We do have a citywide cleanup coming up here on May 19th, and they've been involved with that process, what to do, so they can carry it right along with where we've left off. And I think that'll be fine. So again, that's May 19th for the people at home, citywide cleanup.
I gotta say, Dale, you've done a lot for the community.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you.
Thank you.
So when you were up for renewal in 2017 and we talked about it in Public Works, I remember being sort of regaled by stories from folks who've been in the community a long time about all of the extras and all of the goodwill sort of work that you and your company performed for Cannon Falls. And that made it, that much easier to commit to that renewal. I'm not saying that I don't think that Waste Management is going to do that, but I know that when we were discussing this earlier at Public Works tonight, Afton, who is, what is her title? Administrative assistant. So she'll get calls when recycling isn't picked up, which it's a transition time. Makes sense that there are some misses right now. Right. But so she gets those calls, and what she tried to do was call Waste Management, and she's winding up in Arizona. She's getting a 1-800 number. She's not getting anyone. Okay. So that gives makes us a little nervous. So what can we?
Sorry, but I think that was spelled out to her pretty clear by my office staff,
Okay.
Cassie. I'm still answering the phones. I'm still involved. That's not a normal thing in these transitions, but I wanted it to be that way because this is our community. So if we're going to pass the baton off, let's at least get a chance to make sure that we can take care of the problems as they're coming. I will call Afton tomorrow morning and.
Okay, so you'd prefer calls be directed to you
Oh,
for the time
yeah,
being?
it's always simpler, you know, it's like telephone. If you don't, then things get mixed up, so.
Okay,
Yeah, no, it's no problem with her or with anybody calling us, and they do.
sure.
You know, so, and she does communicate with the office staff there quite a bit. I know that they Facebook it or whatever they do, or email it. I don't know. I'm not in on that stuff.
We did or something. So what about after the transition's over, though? Do you know what I mean? There will be some time where you're going to want to actually and enjoy
That'll
yourself.
eventually come here,
Right.
so.
Well, Jay may have an answer for that. I mean,
Yeah, Jay, you can come up here and fill them in on the
Honorable Mayor,
details.
members of the council. I'm Jay Neeson. I'm a public sector rep for Waste Management. I would actually be handling the city of Cannon Falls and the surrounding areas. As far as the call-ins, we're in a transition period. Right now, we don't have our green pages set up for the services. That won't happen until the approval's given, if it is given. And then our customer service reps will have an entire list of all the services that we provide to the city. That includes pricing and scheduling and all of that. So, they will be on top of things. You'll also, the city will also, all the cities, Afton, Cannon Falls, will have my direct number as well, so.
Good. Good to hear. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, Chair will take a motion to approve the assignment of contract as noted.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Morris, second by Bill. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to the food truck vendor downtown.
Thank you, Mayor. We have had some interest from food truck vendors in the past, and most recently it came up again. A vendor would like to sell pizzas out of a short bus, approximately 24 feet long, out by Tillian Brewery. They were very specific. They wanted to be in the downtown area as close to the brewery as possible. So according to the Cannon Falls City Code, it states that a vehicle can't park on public property and sell items. This includes food. Being in the downtown area, obviously there is not really a place the food truck could park on Tillian's property. They do not own enough land for a food truck to come and park on their private property. So what we at the city in the administrative area would have to use if a food truck were permitted. So my first question tonight is for the council, how do we want to address food trucks coming into the downtown? Do we want to say no thank you? Do we want to say yes and figure out some way to license them and allow them to come and park possibly on city property along the side of the street or somewhere else? And then a license fee for that would be a good discussion to have at some point, because right now what we would be using would be the peddler's license, which you just approved one tonight. That is a cost of $500 a year. I did a little research on some surrounding cities, including Red Wing and Northfield. They do have separate license applications for food trucks to come into their city, and then the fees are around $100. So that just gives you an idea of what we'd be looking at maybe in comparison to other cities. So first question tonight for the council is, do we want to have the food trucks coming in or not?
24 feet long on Mill Street. Didn't we just cap the ends of those things? That's not 24 feet long.
No.
Yeah, so they can't be on Mill Street. We have argued about that so much. We would
And they couldn't pull in sideways because they take
we'd be
up too many
total
spots.
sellouts.
Yeah.
If we just gave up, how many spots is that? Side to side, it's like 4? If they parked parallel across,
Probably about 6.
the way we claw tooth and nail to get parking on Mill Street, I can't give it up to a bunch of people who need pizza after beer. Can't do it.
I mean, I don't see an issue with food trucks coming to town, but not on that, in that area.
Yeah.
Well, some of this too, I think, has to wait until we see if the winery project goes forward or not. That will have a huge impact on what happens downtown. I mean, I can't calculate. Matter of fact, I can't wait until we go over that development agreement because I'm going to tear it to shreds. But until we can solve that problem, we can't do anything if that's his only place he wants to park. I mean, there are other possibilities, maybe the city parking lot or something like that.
Yeah, and so if it were in the city parking lot, we would still need permission from the city for that. So
Right.
if we don't want it on Mill Street, we can say not on Mill Street.
Mm-hmm.
But if we would like them to have the opportunity to come somewhere else, city parking lot, anywhere else downtown, that we have to have the ordinance state exactly where, and that they would be welcome to come there if they pay the fee.
And do we also want to, I would think we would want to ask, especially as you mentioned, they want to sell pizza as maybe their main thing, how Dudley's and Pizza Man feel about that also.
And other places.
The winery is supposed to be putting in a pizza thing too, aren't they?
I believe
And
that's a
Artisan Plaza.
project. Well, I mean, one thing too, you talk about pizza tonight, but if we allow food trucks, you're not going to necessarily restrict
No,
it to
you're
only
not gonna
pizza.
restrict
So to ask other vendors, that may or may not
I'm
really.
envisioning an Augie's truck showing up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know that would be, I mean, it's important, but I don't know that we can restrict it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be
Right.
beneficial for us to find that out. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but
Right.
we're not limiting it to just pizza. It could be other things in the future.
But we had just, in the last few weeks, have gone over how Rod's Liquor and Best Buy felt about what Mr. Olson was gonna do out in his Artisan Plaza there, and
I understand.
Gotcha. So, we went over the winery's like runoff stuff tonight. And there was a specific point made that this big parking area that faces right there on Mill Street, the semi-loading and unloading area would be used potentially a half a dozen times a year and would otherwise be sitting vacant. Now, that's the winery's property, or it would be the winery's property if blah, 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 blah. So maybe there are other things that we don't know about yet that are possibilities that maybe not are, I'm just saying, there's possibilities. But I think it's premature to craft this from a whole cloth, don't you? I mean, why don't you tell this pizza guy they're not parking on Mill Street and see if they still want to come? I mean,
yeah, I think it would be something maybe in a couple months we can revisit once everything's all decided downtown what's gonna happen.
I mean, and the big thing with food trucks, I mean, doesn't have to be there. I mean, those folks can go to different businesses and set up there and, if you had a food truck in town, I mean, they wouldn't have to be necessarily in town. I mean, they could go to, your industry areas and,
Yeah.
with their permission, stop there and people could stop and buy lunch if they wanted to. But I mean, I know if you go down to St. Paul, I mean, you can, right across from the transportation building there, they're set up there every day. So, but that's St. Paul, that's not Cannon Falls.
right.
May I, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
I was thinking exactly what Billy said, and I'm wondering, and this liquor's got kind of a little different aura to it than pizza. But these people, Dudley and Artisan Plaza and whoever, they all paying taxes all day, every day.
Yep.
And this food truck comes in and just the gravy train for little or nothing. They don't own any property, they don't pay any tax, they may pay a little fee, but check the liquor out. They pay a big fee.
Thanks for your input.
Yep.
You're right.
Okay, yeah, tabled?
I would
table it.
suggest tabling for a couple months till we get everything else figured out downtown.
A motion by Bill to table,
Second.
second by Ken. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, moves on to reports. Greg?
Just one item, the East Side 2 project bid opening is next Wednesday, and then we'll have those bids back to you at your next meeting for consideration.
Just wanted to let you guys know, there is the Star Wars Day event on Friday because, you know, it's
May the 4th.
May 4th. May the 4th be with you. So we're doing that, and at 5 o'clock, we do have an escape box. So if anybody wants to do a Star Wars themed escape box, please call the library and register for it because that will be a limited registration. And I do believe we will have programs kind of drop in throughout the day. We will be at the Fun Fest on Thursday of next week. We're going to try to get out of the library a bit more and attend some of those. So Matthew and I have some ideas floating around about what we're going to do to make it kind of fun so people will see that the library is a little different these days. Summer reading is going to be starting. Registration, your little sneak peek, is going to start May 24th. We're going to have an online early bird registration that Cindy and I are working on. That's just kind of a little bit of what we've got going on. We've got all kinds of things, but please visit our website and Facebook page to see more.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks. Chief?
A couple of things. First, the fire chief had to leave to go back to their training and meeting night, but he asked me to cover for council and residents. The fire conditions right now are not very favorable to doing outside burns. He said with the dry weather and the winds, the DNR has posted restrictions. He said the people that are thinking of doing outdoor burning to check the DNR website. One of people reminded the Goodhue County burning permits are obtained through the DNR website. The Dakota County burning permits are obtained through the fire department. And if you're burning here in town, have an outside recreational fire, remember those can't be more than 3 feet in diameter or height, and need to be monitored and have something available to extinguish it should it get out of control. Hose, pails, whatever it may be. Then from the police department, tomorrow morning at 9:30 is the mock crash up at the high school. We'll be doing that in conjunction with the ambulance and the fire department. We do that every other year at prom time just to remind kids of the dangers of drinking and substance abuse and driving, as well as now distracted driving is another big one that gets covered in that. And then Thursday, we have coffee, cops, and conversation at the bakery at 10:30 in the morning. And that takes us through that. Coming up, we have Fun Fest, and going into next month, we'll get into much more activities.
Chief?
Yes?
You're forgetting citywide garage sales and that everyone should drive really carefully because there's looky-loos.
There is.
You usually mention that, and it's kind
There
of a
is
big
that.
deal.
I
It's
forgot about that.
kind of a
and-
nightmare to get around,
yep,
but
and
it's worth
then
it.
we've got citywide cleanup as well. So, yes, all those things come together at the same time. And then the other thing would be,
Oh, and prom.
yep, prom. And the next council meeting, I will have prepped a resolution for National Police Week, which is the week of the 5th or 13th through the 19th. And then also we'll be doing a recognition for a life that was saved up at the elementary school on April 2nd. So some things that'll be coming up, just so council's aware. That's all I have.
Thanks, Chief.
Linnell?
Can't think of anything offhand. I'll probably remember later.
I have nothing.
At Public Works this evening, and this is an item for action for the council, we discussed reinstating some parking restrictions on Hoffman Street West between 3rd Street North and 1st Street North. So the 3rd Street North and Hoffman Street West is in front of the apartment complex, which is called, come on. Yes, Freeborn Manor, thank you. And then it heads up to 1st Street for the 2 blocks, right? So this is where the hill is? Okay. So on the street where the hill is, right in front of Freeborn Manor, we would suggest, for safety purposes, and one of the sides is unfinished and whatever, no parking on either side. There's plenty of parking on 3rd Street on either side of Hoffman, so no person who would otherwise park there is going to have to walk too far. Okay, so no parking on Hoffman at all, and then no parking on the south side of Hoffman Street West between 2nd and 1st. So I'm looking at a diagram, it's much easier for me. I don't know if the camera can see this.
So, Counselor, to clarify, between 3rd Street and 2nd Street, which would be the block of Hoffman that runs the hill, you're saying there would be no parking on both sides?
Yes, sir.
No one parks there right now, but who knows?
Yeah, it's very rare that we see anything parked there, but.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then the block between 2nd and 1st Street would be parking on, or no parking on which side?
No parking on the south side. Parking would be permitted on the north side. And so that's the extent of the changes. And my understanding is that it used to be this way, or there used to be some parking restrictions in place, but then the streets were redone and the no parking signs just never kind of made it back up.
2006 is when they came down.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, I came in 2007, and there wasn't any restrictions that
Yeah.
were there when I came. Okay.
So, we discussed this with some detail at Public Works, and the commission unanimously is in favor of instituting these parking restrictions as described. So I would ask for council's consent, an action item for that. So, am I allowed to make the motion for it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would move that we restrict parking on Hoffman Street West between 3rd Street and 1st Street as outlined.
Okay, got a motion by Cedar,
I'll second.
second by Morris, to restrict parking on Hoffman and First.
Just one question. What about during those rare special events we have in town and people may actually want to park there?
We had people parking there at the pancake feed, but that was workers of the firemen, and that did only lasted an hour or two.
Yeah, no,
There,
not that it would be.
yeah, I could think of a few events where, we have had parking on those. Firemen's, pancake feed, dance.
Dance.
Would be also connected to the firemen. The parade for 4th of July, pretty much any street that's not on the parade route ends up getting parked on. One of the things that we could do is, in those situations, we could either, and this year's is already prepped or done, but as I prep those, I could request council's approval to cover, that signage, for those events where we think that it would be beneficial to have that extra parking, as just part of that blanket request I make at the beginning of the event season, for all the events that we know about. Whatever council wants to do, I think we can accommodate to try to meet the needs of both.
Can you amend your motion to include
Do I need
special
to?
events?
Sure. So I'd like to amend my motion, so to restrict parking subject to requests for special event parking initiated by the police department.
I would just add police or public works.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, typically they come through us, but.
Okay.
I'll second that.
And Morris has seconded it. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Okay, I think that's it from us. Yeah, thanks.
Traffic planning. Just a reminder, we're already started with road construction. And while it's not too bad in our area, many other areas around the state, getting from point A to point B is not so easy. So definitely plan on taking a little extra time and not going 75, 90 miles an hour up and down the road.
Just like to say, for those that attended the concert, Caitlin Smith put on a really good show on Caitlin Smith Day. She's not only a singer and songwriter, but she's a really good entertainer. She put on a good show for her hometown. So I know she's still traveling out on the road, so good luck to her. Congratulations to our high school speech team who won another state championship in speech. So congratulations to those young folks. And other than that, I have nothing else this evening. At this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.